Welcome, and welcome to everyone who is listening together with us this evening. I would like to start with the questions. And the first question, Dalai Lama, he's saying about compassion, that that's the key to happiness, to a meaningful life. And he says compassion is very, very important for one's own well-being, one's own happiness. Don't think it's only good for others. It's a mistake. Unbiased compassion, infinite compassion, real compassion. If you become a compassionate person, then your life becomes meaningful because you yourself are happy, calm, peaceful, and friendly. Also, many people that have been going through different crises and feeling that they really want to look for meaning of life and true happiness, when they have come into a kind of service for other people, they have many times find that that's the source of their own happiness when they are giving to others. Why is it like that? Can you say something about that?
That's a very long question. Yeah, I think it's a great question as well, actually. You know, that compassion, I think, is an interesting area because I think it's a proactive part of love. And it's compassionate love is an awareness, a concern for others in our world. It's part of our natural nature, I would say. It's part of our natural consciousness. But the question comes about, why aren't we experiencing it? Why aren't we seeing it in the world? Why aren't we seeing it in others? I think possibly, maybe there's two reasons why compassion isn't actually an active energy now that among lots of people. Maybe it's because there's been an overload of situations. We see so many needs, so many things are happening around us that sensitive people, you know, are finding it that they're having a compassionate overload. It's so much happening and they feel the frustration. They feel nothing is happening. And when they start to try and make things happen, nothing happens. And so what happens is that you get increasing frustration. There's an anger. There's even a hatred towards organization situations. And we move away from compassion because of the inability of society and our own ability to make things happen. And probably secondly, that this particular consciousness has been long suppressed, or we've been long suppressed by the bombardment and influence of materialism and consumerism. And it's pulled us into the world of the body beautiful and the needs of the body. The belief in accumulation and self-centered lifestyle. Yeah, we have love, but it is love for ourselves, which is kind of the antithesis of compassion. Compassion is an active love for others and the world. But self-centered love is a love for ourselves. So we have love very much. We still have love for ourselves, for things, for self-gratification. So compassionate love is an awareness, a concern for others. So the question might be is, how can we emerge our compassion again? How can we develop it? I think this is the challenge now for everyone now. I think possibly what we can do is maybe we can start again to reanimate, to revive compassion, is maybe have kindness, first of all, to creatures, to animals, to the animal kingdom. Maybe read stories of goodness and inspiration. All these things trigger memory. They trigger and stir our inner world, our inner qualities, and we start to connect again with compassionate consciousness. Do things like small acts of kindness, smile. It may seem kind of very simplistic, but smile, share, don't criticize, compliment. I think all these are part of the building blocks of compassionate consciousness. Because I hear from so many people feel hopeless, feel frustrated, they feel kind of like it's hopeless. And so they lose their compassion, or they're lost, as I was saying, in the external materialistic worlds. And I think a very helpful process is observe, go into nature, see how nature is compassionate. See how nature gives. It's constantly giving. Just look at a tree and see the tree is there. It gives its fruits, its seeds, its oak, its wood. It says, come, yes, welcome, take whatever you like. It's not. And also, we look around us and we can make lots of different examples. And I think also, very quickly and briefly, I mean, look, we could really go into these kind of areas, but also meditation. Meditation connects us with our original inner nature, which brings it to the surface. It brings it to the surface of the mind and allows our active love energy, which probably has slipped away, to empower us and give us the strength to hold our beliefs and awareness and to easily and naturally move into a caring and supportive nature. So I think it's we've got to do it slowly, I think, how we're trying to move into compassion. And when we think about, you mentioned the Dalai Lama, in Tibetan Buddhism, they have I just reminded now, as you mentioned that particular thing, they have a great statue called the Buddha of Compassion. It's really kind of a symbol of really about unlimited awareness, unlimited compassion. And the Buddha of Compassion is said to have 1,000 eyes that sees the pain in all four corners of the universe. Also has 1,000 arms to reach out to all of those four corners. And so it's like this kind of active love. It's where we start to be proactive and helpful, and we start to do things. But the question sometimes we can ask ourselves, the world's too big, things are too big. How can we, where we are, we're trapped, aren't we, in a kind of a physical lockdown now, all of us. How can we have compassion now from where we are? And I think we can be very proactive. We can give good wishes, pure feelings for the whole planet, for all our brothers and our sisters. It's just bringing it into our awareness, to be aware of the suffering and the pain, the confusion, the wars, the poverty, all the injustices that is done to the animal kingdom, all the abuse that's done to the natural worlds. And maybe also let us have compassion for those who are responsible, to give that support and give that openness. And I saw a picture today which reminded, I knew I was going to talk to you about compassion. And it was a picture, I went past the person's house and had a picture of the crucifixion. And I thought, this is incredible. Maybe this is the ultimate image of unlimited compassion. There was Christ on the cross, and he's been taunted, he's been abused, he was dying. Yet all he could think about, all he could say was to God, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That's incredible acceptance, incredible compassion of unlimited love. It's quite moving, isn't it, when you think about that in that position?
Yes.
You want the next question?
Beautiful. It made a note about what you were saying about to make it active, make compassion active, so act, and also that it's step by step. Those small things matters. I like that.
I think we can get overwhelmed when we want to change everything immediately, don't we? What happens is that then it becomes too much. You're overwhelmed by the immensity. It's just like a huge mountain. We just can't shift it. But let us come from where we are and realize through the power of thought, through the power of good wishes, we can we can influence, we can really infiltrate and support the chaotic things that are happening. We can reach out and touch the hearts of our brothers and sisters, the animal kingdom and the natural worlds.
The next question. We have to learn to take care of our negative emotions. There is a danger in suppressing. If I suppress some parts of me, I can't be the bigger me. How can I face my negative emotions without suppressing them?
Yeah, this is a great question for everybody, isn't it, Moa, really, isn't it? That unfortunately, most of us, if not all of us, are full of suppressions of one type or another. And where do they go? Of course, they go into our subconscious. I was just saying that where do our suppressions go? They go into our subconscious. I liken the subconscious, it's like a suitcase. And we keep pushing and shoving all our fears, our worries, our problems, all the things we don't want to face into our dear old suitcase. There's one funny thing about our dear old suitcase of our subconscious. We love it so much. We're attached to it. And we carry it around with us all the time. And we won't let anybody else carry it for us. And it gets fuller, heavier. And no wonder why we're exhausted. All our focus, all our life is to deal with the suitcase of our inner world, of the subconscious. But it gets worse. A worst case scenario, and you guessed it, occasionally our jolly old suitcase bursts open and out pops all our old baggage, all our bits and pieces that we pushed in, and they spill out all over us and all over others. Familiar story, eh? The drama of life. So the question is, why are we going through this process of suppression? Why? What's happening? It's mainly because we're afraid to face these circumstances, these issues. They're too painful. We feel we can't deal with them. We run away from them, we push them away. And we have to face it, I think. In simplistic terms, I think the only way we can deal with our subconscious, with our suppressions, is we have to face them. We have to deal with them. And we have to kind of work with them. We have to talk to ourselves. Facing them means talking to ourselves. And it's about the things that we pushed away. We have to kind of deal with them. Maybe some of the suppressions that we have to deal with, possibly about our parents or our relationships of the past. Maybe that they were the problems that we had. Maybe they didn't give us love, or they didn't care for us, or so on and so on. But maybe we could say to ourselves, they were under an influence. It wasn't their fault. There were issues out of their control. Or it was a job or a promotion or a position that I didn't get. And maybe there is a lot of resentment inside myself and so on. But then we've got to think about it. Well, it wasn't for me. Maybe my path was elsewhere. So we need a compassionate focus on these issues, on the circumstances, on the people that are connected with the suppressions. Maybe we interpreted the circumstances. We wanted something that wasn't there. It's all in the past. We have to let it go. We have to really relinquish. We have to really deliberately force it away from ourselves. And it's interesting. Compassion is not only releasing ourselves from these effects, but also we release others from the psychic prism of our resentment that we hold. We hold them in this kind of prison, this lock. And it's stopping them growing. It's stopping them experiencing a life of lightness and freedom. That they feel there's a block, something's happening to them. And it's our subtle anger, our subtle resentments that is locked into our psyche, into our subconscious, that we're carrying with us. And they're connected with our past, but also we're blocking their growth in a very, very subtle way. And I think also, so it's a kind of, it's allowing ourselves. In English, fear is FEAR. In a way, it's an acronym. It's like facing, ending, answering, and responding, in that particular way. And it helps us kind of deal with it. Or another, you could play around with fear, isn't it? FEAR, fantasize experiences appearing real. They're not really real. Often it's imaginary. Many of our suppressions are imaginary, created by maybe imagination. We've imagined it, and our imagination then extends it, it builds it, and of course it becomes a spectre, and then it haunts us, and then we shove it away, and it's there, locked in the back room, banging on the door, waiting to get us. And we say, go away, I don't want to look at you, we don't want to face you. But actually it doesn't exist. But it's only in our own mind. We say, open the door, open your suitcase. and you actually see it for what it is. It's nothing. Often it's nothing. It diminishes. It goes away. And a very helpful kind of process to help us, Moa, is meditation. It's like I keep coming back to it. It's a very powerful vehicle. It's a very powerful tool to help us in that particular way. It helps us stand back. Meditation is stepping back into our inner world, into this, in another dimensional state, into silence. And then we can release these effects that we're holding on to. It's like you let go of them. They can't come. And what's happening is that we cleanse our subconscious. It's about cleansing the subconscious nature. As we connect with our original consciousness or original nature, automatically we release this very powerful energy that is ourselves, that is within ourselves. And as it emerges, it floods, it cleans the subconscious automatically. So it's cleaning, loosening it. And we resolve it by facing these issues in that particular way. So it displaces negative emotions and all the suppressions that we carry with us in that particular way. There's other areas too about suppressions, that, and all about the effects negative emotions. And there's so much about it, isn't it? Which is very interesting. Some of you guys might be very, very into it. Food awareness. Food has a huge effect on ourselves and our consciousness. It affects us very directly. The structure of our brain, and it actually triggers lots of different moods. Certain foods will trigger lots of different feelings. So it's actually experimenting and seeing certain foods will be very antagonistic to you and not very helpful in that particular way. I'll stop there.
The next question is, compassion has a lot to do with listening and accepting, and not so much about to give solutions. Yeah.
Well, I think we're great experts, aren't we, at giving solutions. We all know the answer, don't we? And I think really that our inability to listen and to accept another's idea or their particular part or their role, I think in a way has a lot to do how we think about ourselves, how we regard ourselves. I think low self-esteem, confusion about who we really are, makes us really desperate to find ourselves. In doing so, then we become self-obsessed. We become self-centered, self-centric in everything that we do. The world of others, their needs, almost doesn't exist. They're only useful if they can support our self-worth. So we block, we reject, we ignore, we show no real interest. We're very good at maybe we acting and posturing and saying, nodding, but we're actually not listening to a word they're saying. We don't care. I've got no interest in what you're saying. We can't hear it. We show no interest. And what they say, We can't hear. We don't want to hear. Because it's drowned. It's drowned by our personal anthem. You know what our personal anthem is? You know that? We all sing it. We all know the same. Me, 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 me. I'm a very good singer of that. Aren't we all good at singing this anthem? It's the anthem of a materialistic consumerist world. We've been learnt this from an early age by our parents, education, society, authority figures. Everything is self-centered. It's about yourself. However, I think in a way that through self-awareness, I become aware of others and the world at large. It's amazing what happens when we start to, with spiritual self-awareness, automatically, as we mentioned a bit earlier, we activate our inner love center. As we activate our love center, our natural nature, we're then able actually to create a space to stand back, to truly accept and appreciate and know ourselves. This is, I think, really crucial for our interactions and our spiritual journey. We have to kind of accept ourselves, know ourselves for who we are. Otherwise, we are just being played like puppets by the materialistic, consumerist theatre of exploitation that is out there playing us. But we cut the strings of this and we find ourselves, we step back, we're releasing ourselves from this kind of control that's been going on. We now begin to know ourselves. And it's a space, interesting. Now where others, this is the key thing also, where others can enter, are invited in. They're accepted for who they are, for what they are and what they think. Because now I don't see them as a threat. I don't see them as someone that's taking my space. I don't see them that's going to dance my steps. No, it's fine. It's okay. I just reminded of a story, a kind of an incident that happened to me, and I'd only started. I was a sort of young teacher, actually. I'm not that old now, actually. But I was a young teacher, and I wasn't a very good teacher, actually, to tell the truth. And the head teacher was a real kind of old-fashioned guy, and he was about 8 foot tall, and he used to wear a big gown. He didn't like me very much, and he pulled me into his office, and he started giving me hell. Told me this, I wasn't doing this, he was telling me I was wrong about this, and he went on, and he sort of picked up, and it was like an orchestra. He was picking up, telling me everything, and I'm sitting there going, but I couldn't get in. I just sat there. And I was feeling, not very pleasant towards him. And then I'd only started actually I'd only started learning meditation. I started sort of researching kind of the spirituality. And I kind of even that, and I just saw it, I looked at him with different eyes. I saw him from that position that I remember that I took. And as I saw him with different eyes, and then immediately I saw his vulnerability. I saw his pain. And immediately there was a credible change in the energy field. It was tangible. It was incredible. I was a bit shocked, actually, that immediately as I began to see him with that kind of different vision, he slowed down. That kind of tantrum, that kind of incredible anger that he was showing to me, actually slowed down. He calmed down, and cut a long story short, he kind of broke down really and apologized and said he was going through difficulties with his wife and everything like this, and he said and he apologized. But it was an incredible experience for me. That how just having that, just even a very slight compassionate view changed the energy field. It changed our relationship. It changed the dynamic that was going on. and everything was resolved. It was an incredible experience, you know. And I think when we do find ourselves, we're no longer searching, desiring for personal praise, for personal acceptance, which is not compassion. But we move into pure compassion. We can listen, we can appreciate and support. And it's interesting, we create a platform, an auric field, where others can express themselves, feel respected, they can hear themselves. You know, this is this thing about, you know, you're talking about, Moa, about where people can find solutions by listening empathically, compassionately. They hear themselves. They see that the circumstances that they're opening up. And through this kind of shared compassionate kindness, they can then begin to see more clearly their journey. They can begin to understand more about their own thinking and see new ways to resolve their issues. And all we have to do is listen. We have to have this compassionate, loveful dynamic. And magic happens, really. It's just experimenting with it. And it's very powerful.
I'm thinking when you're talking that because I've trying to practice active listening, and then I was doing it because I work with kids, and I was doing it on one kids, and it helped so much because I was acknowledging their feelings, and I was able to come close, and it makes such a huge difference when you just slow down in that way. And you are sorry now. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, and then, you know, and then they were able to say what was going on. So
yeah, and I think it's not even so much what you say, but it's actually the consciousness that you're in at that particular moment. It's like it's not antagonistic. It's healing. You're creating a kind of field where people can feel safe. They feel somehow they're okay in this place and they can be themselves. You know, they can't articulate it, but kind of harmony, well-being, and unity starts to come into play in that way, isn't it? That in all relationships, and especially children, you're absolutely right, you know. It's love.
So next question. There's a movie called The Two Pope, and it's about the present Pope and the one before that, the latest. They do kind of confession in front of each other, and one of them say, honesty is vital, but without love, it is unbearable. So what role does love play? We've just been talking a little bit about that. What role does it play in facing ourselves and enduring our pain? You were talking about the negative emotion and that it's too painful sometimes.
Yeah. Love is the the ball that all poets and artists and from time trying to define love, trying to experience love, isn't it? It's all about love. And I think the whole game, our whole drama is about love, you know. It's about love, the experience of love. And love really, I think for me, love is really about being content. It's about acceptance. It's about well-being. It's about harmony. It's having compassion for all. And so there's probably lots more that we can add to the kind of the description of love. It's our lifeblood, you know. And it's quite interesting, isn't it, that when we move away from love, when it slips away in whatever form, we desperately do everything to search for it. And I would say, if I ask everyone listening here, online here, isn't that so? The minute we lose our love, the minute we lose the feeling of love, whatever way we, how we classify it, and all those aspects, it could be part of those components, contentment, acceptance, well, you know, they're all part of this package of love. And we desperately do everything to find it. And I think all our relationships, the accumulation of all the things that we try to bring into our life, all the things we do for acknowledgement, getting a position, whatever we do, it's about trying to get love back into our life. Behind everything, sometimes we forget it. I mentioned one of the earlier questions, wasn't it, that we've been so bombarded by materialism and consumerism that our true values and our true qualities have been lost, been hidden, overwhelmed by the kind of the false propaganda, the false philosophy of materialism. But underneath it, you know, our pure values are always trying to break through. And we do things maybe subconsciously, you know, that you buy a car, it's a good car, nice car, but maybe hopefully to make you feel good because you want to experience, because the feel good means it's an aspect of love. But we've lost it because we've been indoctrinated by materialism. I think they're all part of what we think will bring love back into our lives. It's quite interesting. And when they fail, of course, and of course they do, we get depressed, we get angry, we feel hopeless, and we blame, or we blame the person, our partner. Why aren't you giving me love? Well, they're looking for the same love as I'm looking for, you know, in that particular way. I think our pain is when we lose the experience, the relationship of love. Basically this. So where is love? This is a great question, isn't it? Where is love? It's not in McDonald's. It's not in a burger. I saw an advert the other day, and the woman was eating this burger, and she said, "This is life. This is love." You know, incredible, isn't it? So, such is the distortion of the media. So where is love? There's a very, very famous story. Some of you guys might have heard of it, actually. And it's a very famous kind of analogy. There was a princess, and this princess had a beautiful necklace, and it was her pride and joy, and she loved it and looked at it and everything. But one day she couldn't find the necklace. She looked everywhere. She turned the palace upside down, and she couldn't find. She was distraught. She was and she sat there, tears coming down her eyes, just as princesses do when they're upset. And then she noticed, she looked in the mirror, and she could just see below the line of her dress, the necklace was still there. It was already there. It's still there. And it's the same with ourselves. We've been looking everywhere, outside ourselves, looking outside. But love has always been there, been part of ourselves. It is not outside. Spirituality teaches us it is part of our natural nature. It's part of our essential spiritual being. This is love. Meditation enables us to touch, to emerge, and bring this pure energy to the surface of our mind, bring it to our waking consciousness, and to fill ourselves with its power and strength, and probably more importantly, to hold it there, to hold that experience. I think we do occasionally experience kind of spiritual love, metaphysical love, but it's ephemeral, it's gone. But the art is to hold it there, to make it as a permanent part of our being. And meditation does it. It firms it. It reprograms our awareness and helps us to experience it. The old issues, traumas, fears and hurts, they can't stay because it's such a powerful energy and they're dispersed by this. Love resolves all issues. When we experience this pure love from our pure self, and meditation enables this. It's the realization or realignment. It's a restoration of our long-lost love. It's interesting. Meditation helps us find our dream partner. You're looking for this dream, this ideal, idyllic partner. It's yourself. We've been looking for ourselves. And we can find ourselves. And we find ourselves. We find our love. We find our compassion. Our world changes. A complete, incredible experience. A kind of Kundalini energy, an explosion, a breaking free of all the limitations that we've kind of allowed ourselves, all the traps and the blocks and all the confusions. It's our love will talk to us, will free ourselves. We free ourselves in that way.
Thank you, Jim. That was very rich and warm, and I like the dream partner is myself. That's really something. Now it's little time left, so I would like to open up for you who are listening. If you have any question, you can type them in the chat. So I ask one question, and then can you explain the difference between self-compassion and self-indulgence?
Yeah, that's a very interesting kind of duality, isn't it? I mean, compassion is really about reaching out, caring to others, identifying with the pain, the traumas of our world and others. And it's interesting that it opens us up also to the miseries of life that we shunned or ignored or we turned our back on. And when we kind of connect as sensitive people, we realize sometimes we have these needs, these issues. We have to face them in that way. So we decide, when we make a decision to focus on putting our own house in order, so as to provide a more effective support for others in our world. You know, as I change, the example, as I change, my world changes. So this is, I would say, this is self-compassion in that particular way. But self-indulgence is when things are done for our own self-gratification. You know, others are not invited to the party. You know, they're excluded from participation. But there can be different, I think there can be different levels of self-indulgence, you know, from unaware self-indulgence, you know, like in children, although not all children, but mostly, isn't it, that they're unaware of that self-centered focus on the things they need, to the opposite end of the spectrum, to a complete conscious self-centered focus, which is totally exclusive, you know, and ultimately, I think, destructive. But we can see it, you know, in many examples in the world, you know, that it's a world of complete self-centered self-gratification by corporations, by companies, by individuals, because of the circumstances, the influence by the kind of all the kind of levels of pervasive philosophy that the people are subjected to. And so they follow and they can see short-term gains in that particular way. And it's quite interesting. I was just thinking, there's a story of Narcissus. You know, I say this ultimately is destructive. There's a story of Narcissus, I've got time, you know, in Greek mythology. He fell in love with himself and with his reflection in the stream. Yeah, but the reflection couldn't return his love. And when he tried to grasp it, it disappeared. He was heartbroken and he faded away. So self-compassion is knowing that what you're doing is for yourself will ultimately help and be beneficial to others. I hope is that kind of clear?
Yes, yeah. Yes, very much. There are coming 2 questions. I think we take the first one. We also
the easy one. Take the easy one for me.
Yeah. Can you say more about contentment and compassion? How are they related?
Well, I think contentment is an interesting, isn't it? Contentment is really that when we begin to do the things that we know are right for ourselves, we know that we're living our life according to our own truth, that all of us have within us a kind of blueprint, either we're conscious of it, or mostly we're unconscious of this blueprint that we have, which is truth. All of us have truth, and sometimes our truth is below the surface of our conscious awareness. And when we do the things that are connected with that, we feel content somehow, or doing the right thing. Maybe there isn't nothing. There's no kind of, you don't get a big tick, but maybe helping somebody or doing something in the right way. You can't. There's a feeling, isn't it? It's a kind of an attitude that you feel content. You feel, I'm doing okay, I'm right. And I think this should be our yardstick. This should be the guidance in that particular way. And the connection is with compassion, is it, you're saying?
Yes, compassion.
Well, compassion really is that this is really, you're having compassion for yourself when you listen to yourself, when you do the things that you know are right for yourself. Sometimes it needs courage. I think it does need courage. Sometimes they go against the strictures, the rules. Sometimes it means stepping away from what you're doing and maybe thinking, I will lose this. But actually, the most important thing, ultimately, is living your truth. And this is compassion for yourself. We talked a little bit about self-compassion. And I think this is really important for us to do that. And also, of course, when we extend our compassion to the world and for others, when we open our consciousness and we have that kind of awareness, when we give our thoughts and our energies on an unlimited level, I think all of us feel content because we know we're being supportive, we're being helpful, we're being cooperative, we're trying to rectify the chaos that's going on within our kind of fragmented world. And so compassion really is this going back to this active love. Active love is really, in whatever way it is, it's being helpful, it's opening our heart, our arms, a bit like the Buddha. We have so many arms, so many different aspects that we can connect with. We know there's so many things we can see, but sometimes because of fear, because of the fear of public condemnation, because of the fear of what the repercussions might be. So we let go of that and we step back and we put our mask on, and the mask is over our eyes. We don't see it. We don't speak about it. There's always been a mask for many people. It's only recently they're doing physical. And we have to face it. See your eyes. The eyes are the most powerful thing we have. See the pain in others. See the love. When you walk around, see each of your brothers and sisters. See the effort. See the circumstances. Don't be rejectional. Don't blame them. We don't know where they're coming from. There's circumstances. Even those people we see in very grand situations who seem to be exclusive to others, but we don't know. We don't want to kind of lock them in a judgmental prison. We want to free them too, and just say that's what they're doing at this moment, and let go of that, and just be content with playing our own role. I think this is compassion. This is contentment, isn't it?
Thank you. So thank you so much for your interesting and deep words. So enjoy your evenings, the rest of the evenings, and thank you again, Jim. And
thank you. Thanks, guys. Also have a great time. Okay, good wishes. And enjoy the pandemic.